What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats as well as some excellent attachment combinations for every gun in Modern Warfare 3. And in today's episode, we're going to be moving on to the Haymaker shotgun. And let's kick this off with our damage ranges and our one-shot kill potential. As you can see here, we can only get a hit marker within 21.5 meters, which is the worst out of the Modern Warfare 3 shotguns. Anything beyond that, you can't even hit the target. Also, within that range, it's going to take you at least 3 shots to kill, but often more than 3 shots to kill, depending on how many pellets you're hitting. Then our 2-shot kill range, which is honestly the most important range to focus on with the Haymaker. This is 9.4 meters. And then finally, we have a very consistent 1-shot kill potential at 2.6 meters. Within that range, you're very, very likely to be getting a 1-shot kill, unless you're only hitting like 1 or 2 pellets. As for our rate of fire, this is 250 rounds per minute, and what this means for our time to kill potential is with a 2-shot kill, we're killing in 240 milliseconds, 3-shot kills, 480 milliseconds, and a 4-shot kill, that's all the way up to 720 milliseconds, which is ridiculously slow. So you definitely want to keep yourself at least within the 2-shot kill range. That's generally what you should be aiming for with this gun. Like if you happen to get a 1-shot kill, that's great, but for me, I always aim for a 2-shot kill. And if you manage to do that, 240 milliseconds is a very fast time to kill that will be beating out most of the guns in this game. As for our hipfire spread, our maximum hipfire spread while moving is pretty much right on average for shotguns. It is pretty wide. And then unfortunately, our minimum hipfire spread, when we're standing still, it's actually quite noticeably worse than average here. It's pretty bad by default. And this is one of the biggest things that holds this shotgun back from being really consistent. Now on top of that, I thought I'd throw in the aim down sight spread here, which honestly isn't great either. By default, at 10 meters against a target, even if you're perfectly centered while aiming down sight, you're still likely going to be missing a couple pellets. So when it comes to overall pellet spread, at least for core game modes, I'd say that's one of the biggest downsides, is it does lack a lot of consistency due to the fact that you never know how many pellets you're going to be hitting unless you really focus on that with attachments. Next, let's get into our handling stats, and our aim down sight time is quite slow at 340 milliseconds, and on top of that, our sprint out time is very slow as well at 262 milliseconds for our standard sprint out time, and 400 milliseconds for our tactical sprint out time. So that's yet another downside you really have to be aware of with this gun. You don't want to get caught sprinting, and you especially don't want to get caught in a tactical sprint. But then let's have a look at our reload add time, and this is actually quite fast at just 1.37 seconds, so that's one of the big upsides with the Haymaker, is you can get that really quick reload in by default. And then finally for base stats, before we start covering the key attachments, let's have a look at our mobility stats, and as you can see here, pretty much across the board, we're just right on average for shotguns, aside from our sprint speed. This is below average, it is going to be sprinting around the map a bit slower than the other shotguns, and that is just something to be aware of. And with that, let's now move into the different ammo types since they have a very large impact on the shotguns, and we're going to start this off with the slugs with the Haymaker. And when using this, we now have an infinite hit potential with this gun. However, the only time you're going to get a 1-shot kill with this slug is within 2.5 meters to the head. It will never be a 1-shot kill to the body on a full health enemy in core modes. And then on top of this, we actually have a damage range drop off at about 37 meters, and that's our maximum 2-hit kill potential to the torso. Anything beyond that is going to take you 3 hits to kill. Also, if you're hitting leg shots, that will also make it a 3-shot kill. And as a result, slugs are not ideal with the Haymaker, especially when you consider the recoil. If you're just firing this at full auto, you're going to see a huge jump between that first and second shot, and therefore you typically have to like really slowly tap fire this. You can't just spam it at the maximum fire rates, and then at that point your time to kill potential is so slow because you're having to hesitate and pause that it's just not worth using, at least in my opinion, most of the time. Now, is it completely unusable? No, I'm sure you could make a slug build work, and I am going to be sharing a slug build toward the end of the video. It's just definitely not my preference. As for the next ammo type, these are the bolo shells, and just like with the slugs, we have an infinite hit potential, but now our 2-shot kill potential to the torso is just 10 meters, and anything beyond that will be a 3+ shot kill, and also there is no 1-shot kill potential with this. Even to the head at point blank range, it won't be a 1-shot kill. So really not a good option in my opinion, but the one upside with this is it does delay enemy healing. But as I always say, I'd rather just use something that's capable of killing them in the first place rather than something that sort of tickles them a little bit and will maybe yield an assist after I die. But then after that, we have the explosive slug, and this is actually very comparable to the standard slug with this. We do get a slightly larger 1-hit kill potential to the head at 3.7 meters. Then we get a roughly 40-meter 2-shot kill potential to the torso, and then anything beyond that will be a 3-shot kill. However, just like with the slug, we do see a lot of recoil here. There's also inaccuracy. I forgot to mention that with the slug. It's not necessarily going to go exactly where you're aiming. There is some randomness programmed in there. So again, not completely useless. I'm sure you could make an explosive slug build work, but it's just not for me, and I'd rather use the standard buckshot. And this just leaves us with one last ammo type, and this is Dragon's Breath, and this is actually pretty decent on the Haymaker. It will slightly improve our one-hit kill potential at 3.9 meters compared to the base, which is 2.6 meters. Also, our two-shot kill potential is extended out to 10.5 meters, so a little bit better than the base. However, our maximum hit potential is reduced down to 19.8 meters, so it's a little bit shorter on that maximum hit potential. But honestly, unlike with the Lockwood 680, Dragon's Breath is not a bad option on the Haymaker. Now, does it suddenly turn the gun into an absolute monster? No, it'll give you some minor benefits, I would say. But at least there are some real tangible benefits this time. And that wraps it up for the different ammo types. Now let's move into the barrel attachments, and we've only got 2 barrels for this gun. We have a short barrel and a long barrel, and when it comes to that short barrel, we have a minor reduction to all of our damage ranges, but honestly, it's not that bad of a reduction, and I wouldn't completely write this barrel off because it does help a lot with mobility. However, if you are trying to maximize that range, the long barrel noticeably improves our one-shot kill potential at 3.5 meters. Same thing with our two-shot kill potential. This is now 12 meters rather than 9.4, so that is noticeable. And then finally, our maximum hit potential is actually really noticeably improved here, up to 28.9 meters. Now, unlike with the Lockwood 680, your pellet count doesn't change depending on the barrel that you're using. That will always remain 8 pellets no matter what you use on the Haymaker, as long as you're using the default ammo type. And when it comes to these barrels, I would just say they're purely optional. I don't feel the need to use either of these, but they each have their own pros and cons attached to them, so they may suit a particular build that you're using, or they may not. And then finally, let's have a look at the choke attachments, since they do have a notable impact on our aim down sight spread, and we definitely want to try to get a tighter spread, at least for certain builds. And as we can see here, unfortunately, you don't see a massive difference or a massive improvement to your aim down sight spread with chokes outside of the Bryson choke or Crown Breaker muzzle. Those have the same tightening to our aim down sight spread. And while the other ones do help a little bit, it's not quite as noticeable as the Bryson or Crown Breaker. So those are great options. However, there is something else I want to point out with the Haymaker that many people have told me about over the months. And this is the fact that if you use the Canted laser, when you aim down sight with that, I know you're not fully aiming down sight, but when you do that with the Canted laser, it actually turns your aim down sight spread to 0, which means all 8 pellets go in the same spot. And that could be beneficial on certain builds if you want to be stretching your ranges out a little bit beyond your normal effective ranges. However, of course, there is the key downside with the Canted laser, and that is the fact that the laser is always visible, and it is a highly visible laser as well. Now, another thing I want to mention on the topic of chokes is if you're using a Slug, combined with one of the chokes that tightens your aim down sight spread, you will still be gaining that benefit of a tighter aim down sight spread since there is that little bit of randomness. It reduces that randomness a bit. And as far as I can tell, the Canted laser also works with slugs, so you can get that slug going exactly where you're aiming every time, minus the bullet drop. There will still be some drop to that. However, at least in my opinion, if you're using a slug, I like actually aiming down sight and having a better view on my target. You don't really zoom in the same way with that Canted laser. So there's pros and cons attached to that. I just wanted to let you guys know how this works. And with that, that pretty much covers it for all of the important stats I wanted to mention. Now we can finally move into some excellent attachment combinations. And the first one I want to share for you guys is honestly my go-to with the Haymaker. This is my Hipfire build. And with this one, we pretty much went all in on Hipfire. We're using the Crown Breaker choke muzzle, which gives us a really tight Hipfire spread as well as a tight aim down sight spread. We've got the Bruin Bastion angled grip, the Verdant Hook Box laser, which is a visible laser when in Hipfire. If you're sprinting, this laser won't be appearing, and if you're aiming down sight, it will also disappear. Then we're using the No Stock mod, since that helps a bit with Hipfire, but mainly it helps with our mobility as well as our sprint out time and aim down sight time, which is important. And then finally, we're using a 12-round mag, just because I don't like having to reload constantly, and this allows you to deal with quite a few enemies before needing a reload. And with this build, our aim down sight speed is slightly better, but it's still quite slow at 335 milliseconds. That doesn't matter, we're going to be hip firing most of the time anyway. Our sprint out time is improved nicely to 204 milliseconds. That's still not a really fast sprint out time though, it's just much better than the base. Our sprint speed's also improved a little bit, so we can get around the map faster, which is great. However, our range values are untouched with this build. And my mindset with this is, since this gun lacks consistency over everything, I don't mind leaving my ranges the same if I can make the gun more consistent within those ranges. If I'm consistently getting a 2-shot kill within the 2-shot kill range, that's much better than increasing my 2-shot kill range, but still being inconsistent and often needing that 3rd shot when I'm within that range. So that was the main focus with this. It was all about tightening that hipfire spread up, and this is a very tight hipfire spread now, which means we've now got a very consistent Haymaker on our hands. If you're within that 2-shot kill range and you're reasonably centered on your target, you're almost always going to get that 2-shot kill. So that's the first build I've got for you guys, and honestly, my favorite build with the Haymaker. However, sometimes I like being stealthy with a shotgun, and therefore I'm going to be sharing my stealth build here. So with this, we're using the SA-MX50 muzzle, which is a suppressor. We've got the Jab 30 short barrel, so we can get around the map a little bit faster. We're using the DR6 hand stop to help with aim down sight speed and sprint out time. We're once again using the no stock mod, so again, really focusing on mobility and getting that distance closed as effectively as possible. And then finally, we're going to wrap this up with the Canted Vibro .7 laser, which, like I said earlier, this allows you to aim down sight and get all 8 pellets going in the exact same spot, which is just a nice benefit. Honestly, I do hipfire a lot with this build as well. It's just if you need that really tight aim down sight spread, you've got that at your fingertips. And with this one, we're noticeably improving our aim down sight speed. Our sprint out speed, though, is very fast compared to the base at just 152 milliseconds. That's one of the big upsides with this gun, is you can sprint into a gunfight and use that to close distances better while still getting your shot off nice and quickly. Our sprint speed's also really good with this at 5.9 meters per second, so you're getting around the map very, very quickly. And we're also off the radar when we're firing, so it's excellent for getting in toward the enemy spawn and just sort of wreaking havoc and they don't really know what's going on. Now, one thing to keep in mind is we are reducing our range potential a little bit with this gun, but that is a trade-off I'm willing to make with this build because I'm able to close those distances a lot faster since I'm leaning into mobility, and I'm also able to get those shots off significantly faster coming out of a sprint. And that just makes for a nice, well-rounded mobility stealth build, and I do enjoy using this one sometimes. But finally, I do want to share a slug build with you guys, just for those that are interested in trying it out. Like I said, it's not ideal, and honestly, you're probably so much better off just using like a marksman rifle if you want to use a semi-auto 2-shot kill gun. But who knows, maybe you like a little bit of a challenge. With this reason, the Crownbreaker choke to get that tight aim down sight spread, the SL skeletal vertical underbarrel grip to help with aim down sight speed and our recoil a little bit. We're also using the 12 gauge slug, the OLEV laser, which helps with aim down sight speed, sprint out speed, and aiming stability. And then finally, the relentless tactical stock. Now you'll notice I don't have an optic on this. That's just because there aren't very many attachments to go around here. And I find the iron sights are fine within the ranges you should be using this. Our recoil is improved a little bit here. You can see it still kicks up quite a bit, but it's got a lot less horizontal deviation. And also with that muzzle, that slug is actually going a lot closer to your point of aim than without that muzzle. Our aim down sight speed is actually pretty impressive here at 283 milliseconds. Sprint out time is not great at 234 milliseconds. And just a reminder, as long as we're hitting the torso, we can get a 2-shot kill with this out to 37 meters. So it's certainly usable. You can definitely 2-tap people quite consistently with this gun. However, it's just generally not ideal, primarily due to the recoil. If this had a lot less recoil, I think the slug build would actually be quite powerful. But as it is right now, this is more so for just a change of pace if you want to challenge yourself with something different. And with that, that's going to wrap it up today's gun guide on the Haymaker. As for my thoughts on this gun, I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Like when you play on the small map playlist, for instance, the Haymaker's great. You can dominate lobbies with it just fine. However, beyond that, I just find it's a really inconsistent shotgun, and it's not even viable on many of the maps in the game. Like, I really struggle to use it on many of the maps. So, like, part of me wants it to be buffed in some way, and then another part of me is like, no, I don't want to see that happen because I don't want a really spammable, easy-to-use shotgun being way too powerful, especially on those small map playlists. I don't want to see it any more powerful than it is in that area. So, like I said, kind of mixed thoughts. I think maybe there's some room for improvement here or there with some stats that maybe aren't like directly impacting your damage or your range or anything like that. Maybe improve handling a little bit or your hipfire spread. I don't really know, but those are just my thoughts on the Haymaker, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this shotgun in those comments down below. Also, if you guys missed any of the previous episodes of Gun Guides, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description of the video. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.